vast majority of more than 90 countries attending a Swiss summit on peace for Ukraine supported its final declaration as it concluded on Sunday. Initiated by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the two-day summit at the Swiss Alpine resort of Burgenstock aimed to find a consensus on how to end the war in Ukraine.
I'm confident that together we will ensure the result. The first and the second peace summits should unite our joint work on the details of peace.
Many Western leaders voiced condemnation of Russia's invasion and rejected President Vladimir Putin's demands for parts of Ukraine as a condition for peace. However, some countries attended the summit did not put their name to the communiqué, including Mexico, Saudi Arabia and India. There was no clarity on whether future talks would involve Russia. Swiss President Viola Amherd.
A lasting solution must involve both parties. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the discussions over the past 2 days have shown that there are different points of view. All the more important is our understanding that the path towards peace in Ukraine must be pursued on the basis of international law and, in particular, the United Nations Charter.
Moscow, which was not invited, labeled the summit a waste of time. China was another notable absentee. The conference nevertheless underscored both the broad support Ukraine still enjoys from its allies, but also the challenges for any lasting ceasefire. A draft of the final declaration seen by Reuters refers to Russia's invasion as a war, a label Moscow rejects. It calls for Ukraine's control over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant and its Azov seaports to be restored and for Ukraine's territorial integrity to be respected. But in line with the conference's more modest stated aims, it omitted tougher issues on what a post-war settlement for Ukraine might look like and whether Ukraine could join the NATO alliance. The Kremlin did not rule out future talks with Kyiv, but said guarantees will be needed to ensure the credibility of any negotiations. Whether there will be a follow-up to the summit and where it will be held.
Thailand is facing a critical week of 4 court cases that could unleash a political crisis, with the fate of the prime minister and the main opposition hanging in the balance. Thai politics has been defined by decades of struggle between its military-supported, conservative royalist establishment, clashing with populist parties like those backed by Thaksin Shinawatra, and now a new and progressive opposition. Each case this week is wrapped up in that tension. Here's what you need to know about them. Prime Minister Sethit Thavisin has been accused by a group of conservative senators of breaching the Constitution when he appointed a former lawyer with a conviction record to his cabinet. He denies wrongdoing. He only took power in August but could face dismissal if the Constitutional Court rules against him. If he is removed from office, a new government must be formed. The court will likely announce the next hearing or verdict date on Tuesday. Thaksin Shinawatra, the influential former premier who was ousted in a 2006 military coup, is to be formally indicted Tuesday in a Bangkok criminal court on several charges, including allegedly insulting the monarchy in a 2015 interview. Criticism of the monarchy is forbidden under Thailand's tough lèse majesty law, which carries a maximum jail sentence of up to 15 years for each perceived royal insult. After the indictment, the court will then decide whether or not to grant bail to the 74-year-old billionaire politician who denies wrongdoing. Another case could lead to the dissolution of the progressive Move Forward party. The opposition party holds 30% of seats in the lower house after winning last year's closely fought election, but was blocked by conservative lawmakers from forming a government. The Constitutional Court is considering an election commission complaint that alleges the Move Forward party breached the Constitution with an attempt to reform the country's royal insult law. The party denies any wrongdoing. The court is expected to announce the next hearing or verdict date on Tuesday. The Constitutional Court will also rule on Tuesday on a petition challenging the legality of the process to select a new 200-member Senate. If the process is canceled or delayed, it would temporarily extend the term for the current Senate, which was handpicked by the military after the 2014 coup. Military-appointed lawmakers have been central in determining government formation, including last year's maneuver to block Move Forward from forming a government.
Mourners on Sunday buried Israeli military officer Wassim Mahmoud, the commander, who was killed in the Gaza Strip along with 7 of his soldiers on Saturday. At the funeral, an officer said Mahmoud led his soldiers, quote, with bravery, determination, and professionalism. Mahmoud was a member of Israel's Druze minority, a sect whose faith draws its roots from Islam. The Israeli military said Mahmoud and his squad were traveling inside an armored personnel carrier in a convoy of vehicles in the southern city of Rafah on Saturday. Here's Army spokesperson Daniel Hagari.
According to the information we have, at this point a strong explosion occurred in one of the engineering vehicles in the convoy, apparently caused by an explosive device planted in the area or as a result of an anti-tank missile being fired. Inside the armoured carrier were the 8 fighters who were killed.
The armed wing of the Hamas militant group said the vehicle had been trapped in a prepared minefield. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday called the casualties, quote, another heartbreaking price in our just war for the defense of our homeland. And he pledged again to stick with his military objectives, the destruction of the Hamas militant group and the return of all Israeli hostages held in Gaza. On Saturday, the Israeli police released this footage purporting to show parts of an operation last weekend that rescued 26-year-old Noah Argamani and 3 others who were taken captive on October 7th. Reuters was not able to independently verify the date or the location the video was filmed. Despite growing international pressure for a ceasefire, an agreement to halt the fighting still appears distant, more than 8 months since the start of the war in the Palestinian enclave. But Israel's military on Sunday said it would hold daily tactical pauses in combat operations along a main road in southern Gaza to allow more aid to flow into the area. The war erupted when Hamas fighters rampaged through southern Israel on October 7th, killing 1,200 and taking more than 250 captives, according to Israeli tallies. Israel's retaliatory airstrikes and ground invasion have killed more than 37,000 Palestinians, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Israeli forces have been closing in on Rafah, where it claims brigades of Hamas fighters remain.
Muss jede Nutzung von Kernenergie und Kernanlagen sicher, geschützt, überwacht und umweltverträglich sein. Zweitens sind Angriffe auf Handelsschiffe in Häfen und entlang der gesamten Route sowie auf zivile Häfen und zivile Hafeninfrastruktur nicht hinnehmbar. Drittens müssen sämtliche Kriegsgefangenen im Rahmen eines vollständigen Gefangenenaustauschs freigelassen werden. Alle abgeschobenen und unrechtmäßig verschleppten ukrainischen Kinder und alle anderen unrechtmäßig festgehaltenen ukrainischen Zivilpersonen müssen in die Ukraine zurückgebracht werden. Ein gerechter und dauerhafter Frieden in der Ukraine ist elementar für die Menschen in den Kriegsgebieten und für alle, die von den Konsequenzen des Krieges direkt betroffen sind. Für die ganze Welt muss gelten, dass die internationalen Beziehungen auf Regeln beruhen, auf dem Völkerrecht und der Charta der Vereinten Nationen. Despite those different points of view, we have managed to agree on a common vision here on the Bürgenstock.
Australia advocates that we should all work together to promote a regional balance where no country dominates and no country is dominated. A region where countries large and small operate by the same rules that we have all had a say in shaping. I've made it clear as nations with different histories, political systems and values, we will cooperate with China where we can, disagree where we must and engage in the national interest.
刚才 我同阿尔巴尼斯总理举行了坦诚、深入、富有成果的会晤，达成了许多共识。我们都同意坚定正确定位，巩固中澳关系改善发展的势头。我们双方重申坚持全面战略伙伴关系的定位，坚定相互尊重、相互信任，始终以积极的态度看待和处理中澳关系。
China's uncertain economic recovery appears to have hit a few more bumps. Figures out Monday showed activity at factories sputtering. Industrial output grew 5.6% in May. That was down on a month before and below analyst forecasts. The country's ailing real estate sector was another drag. Property investment fell over 10% on the year over January to May. New home prices also dropped for an 11th straight month and saw their steepest fall in almost a decade. That's all despite government and central bank efforts to revive the sector, including support for affordable housing. Property used to account for about a quarter of the country's economy, but has been sapped by a regulatory crackdown on the debts built up by developers. Goldman Sachs estimates China is now saddled with unsold homes worth close to $2 trillion. There were some brighter spots in May's figures, however. Retail sales rose 3.7% on the year, picking up steam and beating forecasts. The employment market also held steady at least, with the jobless rate unchanged. Even so, economists say the latest numbers will add to pressure on Beijing to shore up growth. Policymakers have vowed to create more jobs through major projects and pledged steps to boost domestic demand. Chinese travellers were supposed to get back in the air and back in the shops after the end of lockdowns. But the signs are that a travel rebound is fading away, and that's bad news for tourism businesses everywhere. 18 months after China reopened its borders, international travel numbers are well behind market expectations. Last year saw Chinese people take 87 million trips abroad. That's still down 40% on the pre-COVID era. UN data show they spent 24% less than in 2019, while spending by US travellers was up 14%. It's all a concern for holiday firms and retailers, with Chinese travellers the world's top spenders on international tourism and airlines. Popular destinations for the country's tourists, like France, Australia and the US, may feel a particular hit. A decline in the value of China's yuan currency is one factor, as it makes overseas travel more costly. High unemployment and a sluggish economy have also cut spending power. All that may have pushed people towards domestic travel, which has boomed even as international demand proved weak. Chinese travellers also complain of the time and difficulty in getting visas for some destinations, particularly in Europe. That leaves the number of them travelling to France at barely more than a quarter of pre-health crisis levels. Capacity on air routes to the US remains down 80%, with political tensions not helping either. By contrast, countries that offer visa-free access, including Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand, have seen rising demand. Japan has also seen a surge, helped by a weak yen that makes it a more affordable destination.
Oczywiście czekamy na bardzo dużo zmian. Społeczność LGBTQ+ w Polsce potrzebuje równych praw, potrzebujemy równości małżeńskiej, potrzebujemy uzgodnienia płci, potrzebujemy ochrony przed mową nienawiści i bardzo wielu rzeczy. I mam nadzieję, że w końcu rzeczy się zmienią, bo jest pierwszy raz, gdy skończyła się ta smutna epoka i teraz mamy nadzieję na zmianę.
आमचं स्वतःचं पाणी असून आमच्या शेजारी आसपास धरणं असून विहिरी असून ते पाणी दुसरे लोक घेतात तर आम्हाला खूप वाईट वाटतं त्यांच्याकडे ते आमच्या समोर नळ घेतात बरोबर तर आम्हाला पाणी नाही आम्हाला डोक्यावर भरावं लागतं पाणी तर आम्हाला पाणी नसल्यामुळे आम्हाला खूप वाईट वाटतं खूप त्रास होतो आमच्या जीवाला
अभी गंदा नहीं लेके जाते तो पानी ही नहीं मिलता है गंदा लेके जाके हम वो उसमें दवाई डालते फिर भी वो वैसा ही रहता वैसा ही पीते हम